This time on AskRadRat, we talk about whether you'll ever be riding your hoverboard around at a skate park. Let's get to it. Welcome back to RadRat Video, a channel where I fight illnesses. I've been sick for like a week and a half and it will not go away. And my symptoms are different every single day. Started with a fever and that finally went away, and then I had a sore throat. Then that went away, then I had a cough. And then that, well, it faded away. And then my nose started to run, then the cough came back. I'm just sick a lot right now. I don't know what's going on. I've got every disease in the world. But I want to stop putting off filming this and finally get it done. But if my brain kind of wanders for a while and I say random nonsense, it's probably because I'm sick. So let's get into the questions anyway. First one is from Olga, who says, does skating with skate shoes really make a difference in skating? I'm not talking about extra stitching to protect the shoe from damage, but as in your performance with skating. Could a skater perform just as well with skating in running shoes, as they would be with skate shoes? A lot of skaters back in the day used to skate in like basketball shoes. It was relatively common to do that. And the reason why is just, like skate shoes weren't that sophisticated yet. So they didn't have a lot of features that were really that big of a deal. They were designed by skateboarders or whatever, but it wasn't like, it didn't have that performance level stuff in it yet. And that kind of came around later. But the biggest thing you want to be concerned with is the sole. So you want the sole to be flat. So like a basketball shoe typically is flat. You don't typically have like a little heel in it. Like a men's dress shoe will have a little heel in it, like a loafer or something like that. That's not going to do you very good. So you want a flat sole and you want it to be straight on the edges. You don't want it to kind of flare out. Sometimes shoes like that do that, or they have really deep treads like a hiking shoe or something along those lines. That stuff is going to actually mess with you. But if you got a shoe that was just kind of plain, regular shaped, that looked kind of like it could be a skate shoe, but is technically not, you're going to be fine. Yeah, it's probably going to wear away quicker. It's not going to have like the right kind of, gum sole or the, vulcanized rubber or whatever, and it's going to wear away quicker. But you said, aside from the wearing away point. So yeah, you would do fine. People have done that before. Tom Penny used to skate Timberlands. Watch a video on Tom Penny right here. Crazy guy, really amazing skater. And there's footage of him like he's a pro skater. He could get pro skate shoes anytime he wants for free, but he was skating around in boots and doing a great job with it. So yeah, you can skate in pretty much anything. And I think that's a really interesting point. Like skateboarding is getting more and more sophisticated with the technology and everything. Like I recently got a carbon fiber deck, and the point of it, the guy told me, it's not to make it last longer, although it probably will. It's designed to have like a bend in it, and so when you bend down to start to do your trick, the board will straighten out and then like spring load and make you pop a little bit higher. Like there's all this stuff, very carefully refined shape and all this. And yet, if you hop on a board from 1996, you could probably still do your tricks on it. It would just feel a little bit weird. The trucks would be a little bit heavier. All these little things. We're kind of at a point of very, very minor refinements to our gear, with shoes included as well. So, yeah, if you don't have access to skate shoes or whatever, you'll do okay. You're just going to wear through them pretty quick. Okay, the next question is from Sam, who says, so let's say I'm playing skate and I pop a frontside 180 and I overturned, landed in a pivot, and finished that out. Did I do a frontside 180 to a frontside 180, a frontside 182 pivot, or a frontside 360? And does this pivot rule apply for all tricks? If you tried to do one trick and you did a different one, then you redo it. Okay, so if you weren't attempting to do a 360, you over-rotated a little bit and you had to like kick turn, then just redo it. If you landed in the pivot on purpose, the person can match with a pivot as well. Where you're going to get into an issue, they could also spin the full thing in the air, I would say, because that's harder. So like if you want to do the harder version, go ahead. The problem is if somebody sets a full 360, they land, and then you match it by spinning halfway and landing in a pivot the rest of the way. That's not cool. So, I mean, that's basically it. You can always choose to do a harder version, but you can never choose to do an easier version when you're matching. Okay, these last two questions actually came a half hour apart, believe it or not. First one is from Alex. Do you believe that hoverboarding, I mean when the board is floating, will outperform skateboarding in the future? And do you believe hoverboarding will ever be a thing? So it means not a hoverboard, the thing with wheels on it that you roll around on. He means an actual, like, Back to the Future style hoverboard. The second question is from a king of a word I don't want to say. Now, I got a question from this guy before, and I didn't want to say the last part of his word because of YouTube censorship. Now he wrote in king of a word I don't want to say. When hoverboarding eventually becomes viable, do you think that pro skaters will switch to hoverboarding? Also, skate parks could be used as hoverboard parks like scooters and inline skaters. Also, you can say the name now to protect you from COPPA. So I will address that last part real quick as a little behind-the-scenes YouTube nonsense. So there's a new law about COPPA is what it's called. And it's basically like I'm not allowed to make content for kids. So like if I were to make baby's first trick tip and I'm like teaching you how to tie your shoes and how to push on a skateboard, and I was making like really kid-centric stuff, that would be a problem now. That used to be encouraged, but now you can't. I think Google can't market to kids, so they can't like run ads on kids or something like that. I'm not sure the exact meaning behind that because I don't make stuff for kids. I make stuff mostly for adults who skated back in the day, and maybe they still skate now. Maybe they just like to revisit it sometimes, type of thing. That's who most of you are, most likely. But I'm always worried about COPPA because I do game reviews too. Video games could be considered a kid's thing, you know, depending on who you ask. So that could always be a problem. But it's very interesting because like 2 years ago, there was something called the Adpocalypse on YouTube. And that was when all these advertisers started to pull out because of all the non-family friendly content that was on there. So like, you know, everyone had to stop swearing and you had to just be really careful about the topics you talked about. If you watch my Chad Muska video, watch that right here, you can see how censored I had to get. I had to cut out all kinds of stuff. It was crazy. And it's stuff that you don't even expect. You'll get blocked for saying stuff. So there's a word, and I can't say it. It's a very neutral word. It's not bad. No one's ever going to be offended by it. But if you go to an airport and you pick one of the brands, you know, those brands are called something, you can't say that word. I found a list. It was all these people got together and like tested all these different phrases and stuff as to what would block it. And if I said the word of what a brand of flight is called, it gets blocked. So in my Muska video, he changes clothes in a phone booth. And I said, I compared him to a certain superhero who is known for changing clothes in a phone booth. And that got blocked. Thing is, that got flagged, And the thing is, YouTube doesn't tell you if or what caused your video to get flagged. It just is. So that video was about, I think it was 32 minutes or something like that. And is flagged. So like what part is wrong with it? So I cut it into 3 pieces, uploaded 3 10-minute pieces. This one got flagged, cut that into 3 3-minute pieces. This one got flagged, cut that down. And then eventually I got to a 1-minute section. And I said that about him like being homeless and changing in a phone booth. And then I mentioned a skate video he was in. And I could not figure out for the life of me what it was that it wouldn't let me say. So I'm like censoring words. Like I said the word hell, and I actually like bleeped it out and I dubbed over it with the word heck. And I was like, okay, this is going to be it. So I'm like, and in 1996, Chad Muska's part in Welcome to Heck, he does this trick, you know, and I had to censor over it and that didn't work. And I eventually figured out that it was that superhero's name that I'm going out of my way to not say now. So you can't be not family friendly. You can't do all these things that they don't tell you about and you just have to guess. You also can't do anything for kids. So what do you make? I don't know. Every YouTuber is just going to die. eventually. So yeah, that's my experience with not quite Kappa yet. Haven't had any problems with that at the moment, but that's been my experience with that. This is not a stealth ad for Patreon, but if you want to take it that way, that's fine. Okay, so back to these questions. They were about if hoverboarding will outperform skateboarding, will it ever be a thing, will skaters switch to hoverboards? I think that hoverboards are not going to replace skateboards because, I mean, they don't exist, so I can't really comment on the technology, but imagine like right now, you've got wheels, you've got metal, and you've got wood. If you want to do a trick, you start to push down on it, it doesn't give, and then you pop the tail, the board's pretty stiff. They can make them stiffer with carbon fiber, but people figured out that they don't actually like that. So there's a certain level of stiffness that they like, and you can do a trick consistently. You can do it here in your driveway. You can do it there at the skate park. You can do it there at that street spot. You can do it anywhere you want, and it acts the same. But on a hoverboard, like an actual floating board on the ground, what makes you float? And how stable is that? When you go to push down on it, does it kind of sink in slightly? Because it would. You wouldn't feel every little bit of graininess of the pavement, would you? So you go to try to do a trick and you go to pop the tail and you sink in, and that kind of robs some of your height on your jump. Can you even touch the tail to the ground to pop a trick at all? Maybe not, because if the board's like repelling against the ground, the tail wouldn't be able to get that close before it kind of launches off. So maybe you can't even do an ollie, but you can tip forward and kind of get speed and launch off of stuff. Like, it's never going to be exactly like skateboarding, but better, because of those reasons. And I remember there was a guy when I was in high school, like 15 years ago or so. He was doing, I would make these 2D cartoons, like these skateboard flash cartoons, and he was doing these 3D ones. And he had like these futuristic, these robots floating around doing tricks on their hoverboards. But the thing was, I remember like there's no truck. So when he would try to make like a Smith grind, or whatever, it's kind of like on a snowboard. If I'm slightly angled, then we all just say that it's a Smith or something like that, because there's no lock in, there's no pinch on the wheel for a crooked or anything like that. So like you're actually losing the ability to do certain types of tricks, at least with precision. You can sort of eyeball it. You're losing consistency on pop, if that's even possible. The only thing you're gaining is no losses in speed from your bearings. Your bearings don't get dirty and you can get slowed down because you're floating in the air. So you would have a lot more speed from that, I guess. The only way I see hoverboarding making like a inroads into skateboarding would be for transportation. With that floatiness, that'd be good if you're trying to ride down the road at 20 miles an hour or something like that. But trying to do tricks on a hoverboard, it just seems like a negative. And I remember when I was in college, one of my professors was saying like, there's a phrase that like the cars saved the horse or something along those lines. And the point is like, because we don't use horses for transportation, now horses are treated better. I don't think that was the point, but the point was like, you can still ride a horse if you want. It still exists. Every type of thing from the past still exists. It only gets replaced if it's 100% better. A car gets replaced with a better car, but cars never replaced horses. They still exist. Now they're just pampered and they're owned by rich people instead of getting tied up outside the saloon while I go in and shoot somebody. You know what I mean? So like, skateboards aren't going to go away and not exist if there's a new invention of the hoverboard. So I think skateboarding as we know it now, with very minor tweaks to board composition and stuff like that, will exist for a good long while. And that's what I got for you this time. If you've got any questions for me, go to radratvideo.com and submit them there. You can also buy this very sexy shirt, or you can go to patreon.com. You can sponsor me there, and I will definitely answer your question if you ask it on there, either on video or in a direct message. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.